Does it always pulse like that? Alien Commander's curious inspection. The voice was cool, strangely resonant, and way too close to his left ear. Jake flinched, trying uselessly to cover himself with hands that were magnetically clamped to the sides of the examination table. Great, just freaking great. Abducted by aliens, and the first thing they do is comment on my poolsing. What the hell is poolsing? He cracked open an eye. Standing beside the cold metal slab he was lying on, naked as the day he was born, he might add, was the tallest woman he'd ever seen. Correction, tallest alien woman. She was easily 6.5 feet, with skin the color of faint moonlight on snow, almost silver. Her features were sharp, elegant, and utterly serious, framed by a severe cut of what looked like fine, metallic blue filaments instead of hair. Her eyes were large, dark, and seemed to have an unsettling depth, like looking into a starless night sky. She wore a sleek, dark uniform that shimmered faintly with shifting patterns of light. Okay, definitely not human, and definitely in charge. The thought wasn't exactly comforting, given his current state of undress and restraint. Does what always pulse like what? Jake managed, his voice rough. He tried for defiant, probably landed somewhere near terrified squeak. The alien commander. He assumed she was the commander from the air of authority that clung to her like expensive perfume, tilted her head. The patterns on her uniform, near her collarbone, shifted from a steady cool blue to a flicker of violet. The primary vascular conduit on your lower abdomen. Its rhythm is pronounced. She gestured vaguely towards his groin with a long-fingered, silver-skinned hand. Oh, hell no. She's talking about the freaking femoral artery. Or maybe, nope, not going there. He clamped his mouth shut before he said something incredibly stupid, or accurate. It's called being alive, Jake ground out. Humans tend to do that, pulse. Her dark eyes narrowed slightly. Your species exhibits significant physiological volatility. We detected elevated heart rate and cortisol levels upon your retrieval. Retrieval, nice euphemism for blasted my ship out of the sky and dragged my half-conscious butt on board. Yeah, well, getting shot at tends to elevate things. She produced a sleek, silver device from somewhere on her uniform and ran it slowly over his body, starting from his feet. It emitted a low hum. Jake shivered, partly from the cold air of the medbay, partly from the violation of the scan. Fantastic. Full body scan while I'm buck naked. Add that to the list of worst first dates ever. Your musculature is dense for your size, she commented, her voice maintaining its cool, analytical tone as the scanner moved over his legs and torso. Though your epidermal layer is surprisingly fragile. We call it skin, Jake muttered. And yeah, it doesn't stop plasma bolts very well, kind of a design flaw. The commander paused the scanner near his chest. The bioluminescent patterns on her uniform pulsed a soft gold for a fraction of a second before returning to blue. Your flippancy under duress is illogical, yet noted in other human interactions. Defense mechanism, Jake said automatically, helps keep the screaming on the inside, mostly. She didn't smile. He wasn't sure if her species even could, but her expression shifted subtly. Curiosity, amusement. Hard to tell with that sculpted silver face. Screaming is an inefficient expenditure of energy. Does it serve a biological purpose? Catharsis, Jake said. Look it up in the human database you undoubtedly downloaded from my ship's wreckage, assuming there was anything left to download. The scanner reached his head, lingered for a moment, then beeped softly. The commander retracted it. Simultaneously, the magnetic clamps holding his wrists and ankles released with a soft click. Jake scrambled upright, swinging his legs over the side of the table and immediately regretting the sudden movement as the cold floor hit his bare feet. He instinctively tried to cover himself. Priorities, Jake. Dignity first, hypothermia second. Your biological assessment is complete, human mechanic Jake Riley, the commander stated. You present no immediate contagion threat. Standard procedure. Glad I could clear that up for you, Jake said, teeth chattering slightly. Any chance standard procedure includes pants, or, not freezing my assets off? She regarded him impassively for a moment. Clothing will be provided. Your skills are required. My skills? What telling creepy alien commanders where my femoral artery is? Required for what? This vessel, the Void Chaser, has encountered unexpected turbulence following our engagement with your transport, she said. Minor systems require recalibration. Your familiarity with primitive human technology may prove useful. Primitive? Lady, my ship could fly circles around whatever rust bucket got hit by turbulence, which probably means we shot something we shouldn't have and now the space cops are after us. Maybe. Depends on what needs fixing, and the availability of pants. A low chime sounded. A section of the wall slid open, revealing a small compartment. Inside lay a folded set of clothes, simple, dark gray trousers, and a tunic made of a soft, slightly elastic material. Acceptable, the commander asked. Compared to this, Jake gestured at his nakedness. 5 stars, Michelin quality, best pants I've never worn yet. He snatched the clothes. Finally, he started pulling them on, feeling slightly less vulnerable with every inch of skin covered. The fabric felt strange, cool to the touch but insulating. The damage is localized in the auxiliary power conduit network, the commander continued, seemingly unfazed by his sarcasm or his dressing struggles. Access is restricted. You will accompany me. Jake finished pulling the tunic over his head. It fit surprisingly well. Lead the way, Commander, he trailed off, realizing he didn't know her name. I am Commander Lyra of the Xyleran Guard, she supplied. The patterns on her uniform flared briefly, a complex pattern of blues and silvers. Follow. She turned and swept out of the medbay, her movements fluid and precise. Jake hurried after her, his bare feet padding silently on the metallic floor. The corridors were dimly lit, curving slightly, the air cool and tasting faintly of ozone. Okay, mechanic skills. I can do this. Just fix whatever's broken, don't annoy the scary alien lady too much, and maybe figure out a way home. His stomach rumbled, and find food. Definitely find food. They walked in silence for several minutes. Jake found himself watching the subtle shifts of light on Lyra's uniform, wondering if they actually meant anything or were just decorative. He also noticed her skin seemed to radiate a faint coolness, even from a few feet away. Weird, like walking next to an air conditioner. They reached a heavy-looking hatch marked with angular symbols Jake couldn't decipher. Lyra placed her hand on a panel beside it. The panel glowed blue, and the hatch slid open with a hiss. The conduit junction is beyond this access tunnel, Lyra stated, stepping inside. It is confined. Confined? Oh goody. Jake ducked under the low hatchway and followed her into a narrow, cylindrical tunnel barely wide enough for them to stand side by side. Grills lined the floor and ceiling, humming faintly. Pipes and cables snaked along the curved walls. Lyra pointed towards the far end, maybe 50 feet away. The damaged regulators are located there. Diagnostics indicate multiple microfractures, likely stress-induced. Stress from what? Dodging my primitive ship's distress call, Jake muttered, already scanning the visible conduits. Lyra turned her head sharply, her dark eyes fixing on him in the dim light. The air seemed to drop a few degrees. The engagement was necessitated by your vessel's unauthorized entry into Xyleran restricted territory. Standard protocol. Right, standard protocol involves blowing civilian ships out of the sky. Jake crouched down, trying to get a better look at a junction box near the floor. Keep talking, Riley. Poke the space bear. Your vessel failed to respond to hails and initiated evasive maneuvers interpreted as hostile, Lyra countered coolly. Maybe my comms were down. Maybe I was just trying not to get vaporized. Jake reached for a diagnostic port on the box. His hand brushed against Lyra's leg as she shifted slightly beside him. He jerked his hand back as if burned. Her skin, even through the uniform fabric, was shockingly cold. Not just cool, but cold, like touching chilled metal. Lyra went utterly still. The bioluminescent patterns on her uniform, previously a calm blue, flashed a startling crimson before settling into a turbulent mix of violet and deep red. Maintain designated personal proximity boundaries. Mechanic. Sorry, cramped space, Jake stammered, feeling heat rise in his own face. Whoa, okay, definitely not human temperature. Didn't mean to. Your species exhibits poor spatial awareness, Lyra cut in, her voice tight. She turned her attention back to the far end of the tunnel. Xylarans possess heightened thermal sensitivity. Unexpected contact is disruptive. Disruptive, lady, you felt like dry ice. Noted, personal space bubble fully engaged. He focused back on the junction box, trying to ignore the sudden tension humming in the confined space. He needed tools. Okay, I see some scorching here. Need a multiphasic scanner and probably a micro-welder. You got those? Lyra produced a device similar to the scanner from the medbay, but smaller, and handed it to him. This unit contains diagnostic and limited repair functions, including particle welding. Jake took it, examining the controls. Alien tech, but the symbols were somewhat intuitive. Point, scan, fix. Hopefully. He started scanning the junction box. The silence stretched, filled only by the hum of the tunnel and the soft beeps of the scanner. Jake worked, trying to concentrate, but acutely aware of the tall, cool alien presence inches away. This is awkward, super awkward, trapped in a tube with an ice queen who thinks I have boundary issues. He cleared his throat. So, Xylaran guard, huh? What's that like? Lots of guarding. Smooth, Riley, real smooth. Lyra seemed to consider the question. It involves maintaining order, enforcing Xylaran protectorate law, and ensuring the integrity of our borders. It is a position of Vorlag. Vorlag, Jake repeated, fiddling with the scanner settings. What's that mean? It translates imperfectly. Duty, honor, the imperative that guides our actions and defines our purpose. Her voice held a resonance on the alien word, a depth that hinted at its importance. Ah, so like a code. Jake nodded slowly, scanning a particularly charged section of conduit. The scanner chirped, displaying readings he couldn't quite parse. Alien units, probably. We have those too. Mostly involves not stealing your crewmate's dessert. A flicker of something, maybe amusement, crossed Lyra's face. The patterns on her uniform shifted to a soft, silvery blue. Your priorities are unique. Keeps morale up, Jake shrugged. He pointed the micro-welder function at the damaged spot. A thin beam of light lanced out, sealing the microfracture with a faint hiss. Okay, that's one. How many more of these regulators blew? Diagnostics indicate 3 additional points of failure further down the conduit, Lyra replied, gesturing deeper into the tunnel. They moved slowly, Jake scanning and repairing, Lyra observing silently. The close proximity was unavoidable. Every time one of them shifted, they risked brushing against the other. Jake found himself hyper-aware of the cool aura emanating from her. It's like she has her own personal weather system. He finished sealing the second fracture. So, Commander, this turbulence. Any chance it was caused by, say, someone who didn't like you being in their territory? Lyra stiffened slightly. Xylaran operations are complex. We navigate intricate political landscapes. Meaning yes, Jake translated under his breath. He moved towards the third damaged spot. Look, I just fix engines and conduits, but even I know flying into disputed space usually ticks someone off. Your assessment, while simplistic, holds a degree of accuracy, Lyra conceded. There are factions that contest Xylaran authority in this sector. Called it, he aimed the welder. Must be tough being in command, all that Vorlag. She was silent for a moment. Command carries responsibilities that outweigh personal considerations. Jake sealed the third fracture. Yeah, but does it get lonely, up there on the bridge being all Commander? Why am I asking this? Shut up, Riley. Lyra turned fully towards him in the narrow space. Her dark eyes seemed to bore into him. The patterns on her uniform glowed a steady, deep blue. Loneliness is an emotional response. Xylarans process connection differently. How? Jake asked, genuinely curious now. He lowered the tool. Through resonance, shared purpose. Through achieving Shallan, she said, the alien word soft, almost intimate in the confined space. Shallan. Mutual comprehension. Understanding that transcends species, rank, or origin. It is rare. Jake stared at her, caught by the intensity in her gaze. He felt a strange pull, a sense of something significant being shared. Okay, deep thoughts from the Ice Queen. Didn't see that coming. Suddenly, a violent shudder ran through the ship. Red emergency lights flashed in the tunnel, bathing everything in an ominous glow. An alarm klaxon began to blare. Report! Lyra snapped into a comm unit integrated into her wrist cuff. A tinny, panicked voice crackled back. Commander, hull breach, Deck 7, hostile vessel decloaked. They're demanding surrender. Lyra's posture became rigid, all cool composure instantly replaced by sharp-edged authority. The patterns on her uniform flared a brilliant, angry crimson. Negative. Shields to maximum. Return fire. Damage control teams deploy. Another shudder rocked the tunnel, stronger this time. Jake stumbled, instinctively reaching out to steady himself. His hand landed squarely on Lyra's arm. This time the coldness was expected. What wasn't expected was the jolt that shot through him, like static electricity amplified 1,000 times. Lyra gasped, a sharp intake of breath, and her eyes widened fractionally. The crimson light on her uniform pulsed violently. My apologies. Jake yanked his hand back, his own heart hammering against his ribs. Ship's shaking. Maintain position, Lyra ordered, though her voice was a fraction unsteady. She gripped a handhold on the wall, her knuckles white against her silver skin. Mechanic, the fourth regulator. If the auxiliary power fails now, our weapon systems will go offline. Jake didn't need telling twice. Adrenaline surged through him. He scrambled towards the final damaged section, the scanner welder held tight. The ship lurched again, throwing him against the curved wall. Almost there, he yelled over the klaxon. He found the fracture, larger than the others, sparks spitting from it intermittently. He aimed the welder. Stabilize yourself. Lyra's voice was sharp, right behind him. A cool hand clamped onto his shoulder, surprisingly strong, holding him steady against the ship's violent movements. The cold seeped through his tunic, but the jolt from earlier didn't repeat. Her touch was firm, grounding. Okay, focus. He held the welder beam steady, concentrating despite the chaos, the klaxon, the alarming coolness of the hand on his shoulder. Slowly, painstakingly, the fracture began to seal. Report status, Lyra demanded into her comm again, her other hand still gripping Jake's shoulder. Shields holding at 40%, came the strained reply. We've scored hits on their ventral side. They're maneuvering, Commander, incoming torpedoes. The deck plating beneath Jake's feet vibrated intensely. He finished the weld just as another impact shuddered through the void chaser. Regulator sealed, Jake shouted, pulling the tool back. Lyra released his shoulder instantly. Engineering, confirm auxiliary power stable. Affirmative, Commander, power rerouted. Weapons are stable. Target their engines, Lyra commanded, her voice ringing with authority even amidst the chaos. Disable, do not destroy. The klaxon cut off abruptly. The red emergency lights switched back to the dim white. The violent shaking subsided, replaced by a low, powerful hum. Silence descended in the tunnel, broken only by their breathing. Jake leaned against the wall, suddenly exhausted. Lyra stood straight, listening intently to the low chatter from her comm unit. Hostile vessel disabled, Commander. the voice reported after a tense moment. "They are venting drive plasma. No further hostile action detected." "Maintain defensive posture," Lyra ordered calmly. "Damage report." She deactivated the comm and finally looked at Jake. Her expression was unreadable, but the patterns on her uniform had softened to a swirling mix of blue and silver, like turbulent water calming after a storm. "Your actions were efficient, Mechanic Riley," she stated. Jake managed a weak grin. "Just doing my job, primitive human efficiency, you know, and trying not to die, mostly that." "Your definition of job seems flexible," Lyra observed. "One moment prisoner, the next critical personnel." "Hey, I adapt," Jake said, pushing himself off the wall. "Comes with the territory when you get abducted." He hesitated, then added, "Thanks for the steadying hand back there." Lyra inclined her head slightly. "Mutual benefit. Your stability ensured system integrity." But her eyes held something else, a flicker of something he couldn't name. The memory of that jolt when he touched her arm lingered. "Right, mutual benefit." Jake rubbed the back of his neck. "So, what now? Do I go back to the brig, or do I get that dessert you Xylarans probably don't have?" Lyra regarded him for a long moment. The air in the tunnel felt thick with unspoken things. "Neither. Your status is under review." She turned. "The immediate crisis is averted, but the situation remains volatile. Come." She led the way back out of the cramped tunnel. Jake followed, his mind racing. Under review, what does that mean? And what was that jolt? They emerged back into the main corridor. Security teams hurried past, their expressions tense. Lyra navigated the corridors with purpose, eventually stopping before a door that slid open to reveal surprisingly comfortable-looking living quarters. Minimalist, alien, but with a seating area and what looked like a food dispenser. "Wait here," Lyra commanded. "Do not attempt to leave." The door slid shut behind her, leaving Jake alone in the alien room. He sank onto one of the sleek, curved couches. It molded slightly to his form. "Okay, points for alien furniture." He looked around. No windows, just smooth, metallic walls and the quiet hum of the ship. "So I fixed their ship, helped fight off bad guys, and now I'm grounded," he sighed. This was officially the weirdest day of his life. He kept thinking about Lyra. The cold skin, the flashing lights, the way she said Shallon. He must have drifted off, exhausted, because the next thing he knew, the door hissed open and Lyra entered. She was no longer in her command uniform, but wore simpler, softer gray clothes similar to his own. The bioluminescent patterns were gone, revealing smooth, pale silver skin beneath. Without the severe lines of the uniform, she looked different, less imposing, almost vulnerable. "Whoa, okay, didn't expect that." She carried a small tray with covered containers. "Sustenance," she announced, placing it on the low table in front of him. "Nutrient paste, synthesized for human biology." Jake eyed the grayish paste skeptically. "Looks delicious. Probably tastes like despair." "It is nutritionally complete," Lyra stated, sitting on the opposite couch. She didn't take any food for herself. Jake tentatively scooped some paste with the provided utensil. It was bland, slightly thick, but not disgusting. Edible. He ate in silence for a few moments. "Why did you help?" Lyra asked suddenly, her dark eyes fixed on him. Jake swallowed the paste. "What?" "During the attack, you repaired the conduit under fire. Why?" He shrugged, feeling uncomfortable under her direct gaze. "Seemed like the best way to not get blown up along with your ship. Self-preservation mostly. And maybe because you asked me to." "Yet your actions went beyond mere self-preservation," Lyra countered. "You exhibited cooperative intent." "Look, Commander," Jake said, putting the utensil down. "We were in a tight spot, literally. I did what needed doing, that's it. Why is she interrogating me about helping?" "Among Xylarans, such cooperation under duress often signifies the beginning of Shallon," Lyra said softly. "A recognition of shared reality, shared threat." Jake stared at her. Sharing a near-death experience isn't exactly my idea of a bonding moment, though that jolt earlier felt like something. Lyra tilted her head. Describe the sensation when your hand made contact with my arm during the turbulence. Heat crept up Jake's neck again. It was like a shock. Static electricity, maybe. Xylar and bioenergetics are complex, she explained, her voice low and clinical, yet somehow intimate in the quiet room. Our lower body temperature is a result of efficient energy regulation. Strong emotions or unexpected physical contact can cause minor discharges, especially with species of significantly different thermal ranges. Bioenergetics, right. So I basically short-circuited you by accident. A faint, almost imperceptible curve touched Lyra's lips. It wasn't quite a smile, but it was close. An oversimplification, but the contact registered strongly, an unexpected resonance. Resonance, there's that word again. Jake didn't know what to say. He felt completely out of his depth. This wasn't just fixing conduits anymore. Jake Riley, Lyra said, leaning forward slightly. Your presence on this vessel is an anomaly. Your actions, your responses, they are illogical yet strangely effective. You assisted my ship, possibly saved it. This creates complication. Complication for your Vorlag, Jake guessed. Precisely. My duty dictates you remain a prisoner of war, yet Shallan suggests potential. Potential for what? More awkward conversations about my pulsing arteries. Look, Commander Lyra, I just want to go home. Her expression flickered. Return is problematic. The faction that attacked us likely monitors this sector. Releasing you could compromise Xylar security. So I'm stuck here, Jake asked, a sinking feeling in his stomach. Your status remains under review, she repeated. However, I wish to understand your species better, your motivations, your chaotic nature. She paused. Humans engage in a practice, truth or dare, a game of reciprocal revelation. Jake blinked. You want to play truth or dare now? Is this alien for let's get weird? Not the dare component. It seems inefficient and potentially hazardous, Lyra clarified. But the truth, reciprocal questioning to facilitate understanding. Jake considered it, stuck on an alien ship maybe indefinitely. Talking seemed better than sitting in silence worrying, and honestly, he was curious about her too. Okay, sure, why not, you go first. Lyra seemed to gather herself. Why did you express concern regarding my potential loneliness? Is solitude inherently negative for humans? Damn, starting deep. Yeah, mostly. We're social creatures. Isolation messes with our heads. We need connection. He gestured vaguely. Even sarcastic mechanics trapped on alien ships. She absorbed this, her dark eyes thoughtful. Interesting. Xylarans value solitude for clarity, but connection, our connection is different, more profound when achieved. It is called Cathar. Cathar, Jake echoed the new word. It sounded deep, resonant like Vorlag and Shallan. It signifies the deepest bond, a merging of purpose, understanding, and bioenergetic fields. It involves thermal resonance. Her gaze flickered towards his hand, the one that had touched her. Thermal resonance, bioenergetic fields, okay, sounds intense. Sounds complicated and probably not compatible with humans. Compatibility is not always predictable, Lyra murmured. My turn to ask, why did you assume my initial query about your pulsing was intimate? Jake flushed bright red. Oh hell, she remembered that. Because, where you were pointing and the way you said it, look, on Earth, if someone walks up to a naked guy and asks, does it always pulse like that? While gesturing vaguely down there, it usually means one thing. Lyra tilted her head again, processing this. Human communication relies heavily on ambiguous context and physiological assumptions. Inefficient. Maybe, but it's how we work, Jake protested. My turn. What are those lights? The ones on your uniform earlier, they kept changing color. Bioluminescent indicators, Lyra explained. Integrated into command uniforms. They display basic emotional state and physiological alerts. Blue indicates calm or focus. Red signifies alert or aggression. Gold is rare, strong positive resonance. Gold that flashed when she scanned my chest, and when she mentioned Shalyn, Jake filed that away. Okay, your turn. What did you truly feel during the bioenergetic discharge? Beyond static electricity. Jake hesitated how to describe it. It wasn't painful. It was startling, alive, like touching a live wire but without the burn, just pure, raw energy. And underneath it, a strange sense of connection. Like for a split second, he'd felt the cool, controlled energy that was Lyra. It felt, he struggled for words, intense, like touching the ship's core. Lame, Riley, so lame. Lyra's eyes seemed to darken, pupils dilating slightly. An apt comparison. Xyleran life force is deeply connected to energy fields. She paused, her gaze unwavering. My turn. Do you find my biological differences repulsive? The question hung in the air. Jake looked at her, the silver skin, the strange eyes, the memory of that shocking cold touch, the undercurrent of controlled power. Repulsive. No, strange? Yes. Fascinating, definitely. Dangerous, probably. No, Jake answered honestly. Different, maybe a little intimidating, but not repulsive. Actually, kind of beautiful in a weird, scary, alien way. A barely perceptible relaxation eased her shoulders. The silence stretched again, but it felt different now. Less awkward, more charged. I believe, Lyra said softly, that Shalyn may be occurring between us, Jake Riley. Oh boy, his heart did a weird little flip-flop. Shalyn, mutual understanding. Is that what this is? Before Jake could reply, a soft chime emanated from Lyra's wrist calm. She lifted it, listening intently. Her expression became serious. What is it? Jake asked. Lyra lowered her arm. The disabled vessel. They have initiated a self-destruct sequence. Standard protocol for their faction when captured. Can we get away? We are moving to a safe distance, but debris could still pose a hazard. She stood up. I must return to the bridge. She paused at the door. Do not attempt to leave these quarters for your safety. The door slid shut, leaving Jake alone again, his mind whirling with thoughts of Vorlag, Shalyn, Cathar, bioluminescent pulses, and a cool alien commander who found him illogical but potentially resonant. My status is under review, huh? Feels like everything is under review right now. He looked down at his hand, the one that had touched her. He could almost still feel the echo of that cold jolt. Hours passed. Jake paced the small quarters, tried the nutrient paste again, still bland, and examined the strange alien controls on the wall, careful not to touch anything important. He wondered about the ship outside, about Lyra on the bridge, about whether he'd ever see Earth again. He was starting to feel the isolation Lyra had asked about. It sucked. Finally, the door hissed open again. Lyra stood there looking tired. The lines around her eyes seemed deeper. The threat is neutralized, she reported flatly. The debris field is manageable. Good, Jake said, relieved. So what happens now? Lyra walked into the room, stopping a few feet away from him. The ship requires more extensive repairs. We are diverting to the nearest Xyleran outpost. It will take several rotations. And me? You will remain under my direct supervision. Her gaze was intense. The Shalyn between us, it complicates matters, but it also presents possibilities. Jake's breath hitched. Possibilities like what? Interspecies dating. Xyleran bonding, Cathar, is not undertaken lightly, Lyra continued, her voice low. It requires resonance, understanding, and a willingness to bridge biological divides. She took a step closer. He could feel the faint coolness radiating from her. The energetic discharge we experienced, it indicates a potential pathway, a dangerous one perhaps, untested between our species. Jake's heart was pounding now. This was moving way too fast. Capture, repair, battle, truth or dare, and now potential alien bonding. Whoa, Commander, pathway, bonding, we barely know each other. We shared crisis. We exchanged truths. We experienced bioresonance, Lyra countered. By Xylar and metrics, this constitutes significant interaction. She reached out slowly, deliberately, her silver fingers hovering just above his forearm. Your human connection, it is rapid, volatile. Perhaps Xylar and Cathar can be initiated similarly under specific circumstances. Jake looked from her hand to her face. Her expression was serious, searching. He felt a pull, undeniable and strong, towards this strange, cool alien. Fear warred with fascination. Duty, what little he felt towards his lost ship, warred with this. Whatever this was. You said it involves thermal resonance, Jake recalled, his voice husky. You're cold. Humans are warm, seems incompatible. Superficially, Lyra agreed. But energy exchange transcends simple temperature. Cathar involves the sharing of bioenergetic fields, finding equilibrium. The difference might create unique resonance. Her fingers drifted closer, almost touching his skin. He could feel the chill intensify. Are you willing to explore this potential, Jake Riley, to attempt Shallan on a deeper level? He swallowed hard. This was insane. He should say no. He should demand to be put in a cell until they reached this outpost. But looking into her dark, fathomless eyes, seeing the quiet intensity there, the hint of vulnerability beneath the command presence. Ah, what the hell, my life is already completely off the rails. Okay, Lyra, he breathed, using her name without the title for the first time. Okay, let's explore. Her fingers finally made contact with his skin. The jolt was still there, but different this time. Not shocking, but a deep, humming vibration that seemed to sink right into his bones. It was cold, yes, but also strangely invigorating, like diving into icy water on a hot day. Lyra's eyes widened slightly, and a soft golden light pulsed faintly beneath her silver skin, tracing delicate patterns across her cheekbones and temples. It wasn't from her uniform this time. It was her. The resonance, she whispered, her voice filled with something like awe. It is strong. Jake couldn't speak. He just stared as the golden light intensified, swirling in complex patterns that mirrored the rhythm of his own racing pulse. Her cool touch sent shivers down his spine, but they weren't unpleasant. The first stage of Cathar, Lyra explained, her voice regaining some of its clinical tone, though threaded with wonder. Thermal acclimation and energetic alignment. Her thumb brushed lightly against his pulse point on his wrist. Your vascular rhythm, it is less volatile now, more synchronized. Synchronized? With what? Her. He looked down at where her hand rested on his arm, her cool skin against his warmth. The golden patterns pulsing beneath her surface. It felt incredibly intimate, more intimate than just being naked on her medbay table. What happens next? Jake asked, his voice barely a whisper. Lyra's gaze held his. Deeper connection, shared sensory input if both participants are willing. She tilted her head, a gesture he was coming to recognize as deep consideration. There is a Xylaran ritual, simple yet profound, a way to formalize the intent to bridge the gap between minds. Ritual? Oh boy, hope it doesn't involve chanting or robes. What kind of ritual? A sensory link, she said. Using localized biointerface technology, it allows for a temporary, controlled sharing of neural pathways, experiencing the other's perception. Jake's eyes widened. You want to link our brains? That sounded way beyond exploring potential. Not merging minds, Lyra clarified quickly. Sharing sensory input. Taste, touch, sight, sound, feeling what the other feels, briefly. It confirms the resonance, solidifies the Shallan required for Cathar. She hesitated. It requires trust. Trust? He looked at Lyra. She'd been formal, commanding, even intimidating. But she'd also shown curiosity, vulnerability, and a strange kind of honor. She hadn't lied to him. She'd even asked if he found her repulsive before proceeding. Against all odds, he did trust her. Mostly. Okay, Jake said again, feeling breathless. Let's do the sensory link. Lyra nodded slowly, a soft golden light washing over her features. She withdrew her hand, and the warmth where she'd touched him felt strangely empty. She went to a panel on the wall, retrieving two small, sleek silver circlets. "These are placed on the temples," she explained, holding one out to him. "They create a low-level bioenergetic field that interfaces with neural pathways." Jake took the cool metal circlet. It felt smooth and slightly heavy. He looked at Lyra, who was already placing hers against her temple. The golden patterns on her skin pulsed brighter where the circlet touched. Taking a deep breath, Jake copied her, placing the circlet against his own temple. There was a faint tingling sensation, nothing unpleasant. "Focus on your breathing," Lyra instructed softly. "Clear your mind, allow the connection." Jake closed his eyes, trying to do as she said. He focused on the sound of his own breathing, the cool air in the room, the faint hum of the ship. Then slowly, subtly, something shifted. It wasn't a flood, but a trickle, a faint coolness overlaying his own body heat, a sudden, sharp awareness of the metallic tang of the recycled air, a heightened perception of the subtle vibrations of the deck plating beneath his feet. He could almost feel the intricate network of the ship around them, sense its energy flows. It was Lyra's perception, bleeding into his own. He gasped softly, "Whoa." Simultaneously, he felt a wave of warmth wash through the coolness. A jumble of chaotic, colorful human sensation, the lingering bland taste of the nutrient paste, the slightly rough texture of his borrowed tunic against his skin, the muffled thud of his own heartbeat, loud and erratic compared to the steady thrum he sensed from her. He felt a confusing mix of apprehension, excitement, and sheer disbelief filtering through the link. His feelings, experienced by her. He heard, or rather felt, Lyra's sharp intake of breath within his own mind. Volatile, so much sensation. Warmth, her thought, clear as a bell in his head. Cold, so calm, he thought back experimentally. Resonance, came her reply, a feeling of quiet satisfaction accompanying the thought word. The golden light he could perceive through her senses flared brilliantly. They stayed like that for a long moment, simply experiencing. His chaotic warmth against her controlled coolness. His jumbled human senses against her precise Xyleran perception. It wasn't overwhelming, just different, eye-opening. He could feel her underlying sense of Vorlag, the weight of command, but also the quiet pulse of curiosity directed at him. And beneath that, something deeper, softer, the loneliness she denied but that resonated clearly through the link. He felt an answering wave of empathy from her as she perceived his own feelings, the fear, the displacement, but also the growing fascination, the undeniable attraction. The link faded slowly, gently, like mist burning off in the morning sun. Jake opened his eyes, blinking. Lyra was watching him, her own eyes wide, the golden patterns on her skin slowly receding to a soft glow. The circlets felt inert against their temples now. "Shallan," Jake whispered, the word feeling right on his tongue. He finally understood. Lyra nodded, removing her circlet. He did the same. "The path to Cathar is open," she confirmed, her voice husky, "if we choose to walk it." The air crackled with unspoken energy. The biological differences, the thermal incompatibility, the potential energetic discharges, none of it seemed like a barrier anymore. It felt like potential. Intense, maybe dangerous, but potential nonetheless. Lyra stepped closer, close enough that he could feel the coolness of her skin without touching. Her dark eyes searched his. "Jake Riley, human, your presence disrupts my mission, challenges my Vorlag. Yet," her gaze softened almost imperceptibly, "yet I desire this connection, this resonance." His heart hammered, duty forgotten, fear sidelined. There was only her, the strange, beautiful alien commander, offering a connection deeper than anything he'd ever imagined. He reached out, mirroring her earlier gesture, letting his fingers hover just above her silver cheek. He could feel the faint energy field, see the golden light pulse beneath her skin in anticipation. "Me too, Lyra," he admitted, his voice thick. "I desire it too." He leaned in, closing the small distance between them. Her skin was cool against his lips, but a surprising heat bloomed beneath the surface, a bioenergetic warmth responding to his touch. Her eyes closed, and a soft sigh escaped her lips, a sound that resonated deep within him. The Xyloran outpost was still days away. The threat from the rival faction, though damaged, likely remained. His future was uncertain, tangled with the fate of this ship and its commander. But in this moment, none of that mattered as much as the cool touch of her skin, the golden light pulsing beneath it, and the dawning realization of Cathar. He deepened the kiss, feeling the unique resonance hum between them, a connection forged in chaos and sealed with a truth beyond words. Okay, maybe it doesn't just pulse, he thought, a ghost of his earlier confusion returning, but this time tinged with awe and burgeoning affection. Maybe it sings.